Welcome everyone to CCIE Security version 5 technology series. In this course we will talk about cryptography and public key infrastructure. But before we talk about the individual topics I put into this course, I would like to quickly introduce myself. My name is Piotr Kaluzny and I will be your instructor in this course. My background is in network security, network engineering, and also teaching. I've been acting as an instructor for the last several years. I've been working for a few well-known Cisco training companies, including my own. If you want to find more details about myself, you can always visit my profile on LinkedIn. You can also shoot me an email with any questions when you have them as you are watching individual modules of this series, or maybe right after you finish this course. I took my CCIE Security lab exam back in 2009. Well, actually, when I was preparing to the lab, it was still version 2, what Cisco was testing on. But when I took the exam, I was one of the first few guys who took version 3 lab exam, and I was one of those first few guys who were lucky enough to pass the test in the first attempt. Before we will get to the overview of this course, I would like to quickly talk about a few prerequisites, or just things that I think you should be aware of before you start watching the videos, individual modules of this course. It is going to be definitely some basic network security knowledge that you should possess. And it's not going to be, something really specific like knowing the details of how firewalls work, or maybe what type of devices are being involved in a common design when you are securing the network. It's going to be something more generic, like knowing the concepts and the general terms related to security. So why do you actually want to secure the network, and what are the different technologies that you can use to do this in general? What is going to be probably even more important for this particular course is going to be to know the basics of routing and switching. So ideally, if you are at a CCNA level for routing and switching, or maybe security, you should definitely know what is the function of a router, of a switch, how are the packets being moved across an IP network, how IP routing works, how IP version 6 works, stuff like that. This is definitely gonna help you to better understand the individual modules. And one more thing is gonna be to be familiar with how you can access the Cisco's documentation. Just in case you guys don't have too much experience with this, I want to quickly jump into the browser and we will take a look at this from scratch. So the actual URL that you have to type into the URL bar to get to the Cisco's documentation, this is going to be the cisco.com/cisco/web/PSA/default.html. This is what you will have to use to get to the documentation. And as a side note here, a few months ago it was actually needed to log into one of the Cisco accounts. Like, you had to set up a Cisco account so you could access the documentation, but I think this is no longer the case now. So they came back to the original setup, which is making the documentation accessible for everyone without having to log into one of your accounts. Okay, in our particular case, what we will be probably looking at, just in case if you want to get some more information about the technologies that we will take a look at in individual modules of this course, you will have to navigate to the products and then iOS and NX-OS software. You'll go to iOS, then this is going to be for 15 M&T releases, 15.5 once again, and it's going to be documented under configuration guides, command references. This is something you could also take a look at, but in most cases you will be using configuration guides, and this is going to be for security services and VPN, and specifically the one that we will be looking at is going to be for secure connectivity. So secure connectivity, and you will probably want to use the public key infrastructure configuration guide. So this document is what is going to be very useful as we will advance to more hands-on topic that are part of this course. Stuff like how you will deploy PKI in the network on iOS devices. And also for the ASA, we will have to get back to the original documentation page. Let's go back to the main page once again. It's gonna be under security and then firewalls, ASA 5500X series firewalls twice. And then if we take a look at the config guides for the ASA, you should be able to find some more information about PKI under the ASA 9.6/ASDM 7.6. And this is going to be under General Operations CLI Configuration Guide. And you will be looking at basic settings at the digital certificates. So the documents I showed you here, this stuff is going to be more important for the last few modules of this course. The cryptography part, this is something that is not actually documented, that is not part of the Cisco's documentation. You can always use Google or take a look at some of the books that I will actually recommend you to look at as we will progress through the course. And just a quick overview of what topics we will actually talk about in this course. We are going to start with an introduction to cryptography. This module is where we will talk about the basic terms related to cryptography. We will obviously also talk what cryptography is, what cryptography is not, and we will take a look at some basic applications for cryptography. Then in the second module, module 2, we will start talking about individual technologies and functions of cryptography, and we are going to start with hashing, because hashing is going to be something that will help you to better understand some other functions and algorithms that we will talk about later in this course. Okay, module 3 is where we will take a look at the encryption, and this is going to be specifically symmetric encryption. So as you probably guessed, there is also what is known as asymmetric encryption. We will talk about this stuff in module 4. Okay, then as we move on, we will spend some time looking at digital signatures, which is going to be kind of like a prerequisite to understand public key infrastructure. But before we get to public key infrastructure, we will also look at next generation encryption. We will be talking about different cryptographic functions recommended by Cisco to protect sensitive and classified information. Okay, then we will start talking about public key infrastructure, which is where we will learn about certificates, about certificate authorities, and we will also talk about the different terms that are associated with PKI. Then we will move on and talk about some of the details related to public key infrastructure. We will take a look at the enrollment process, so how individual devices can join to a PKI, and we will also spend some time looking at how we can remove a device from a PKI, which is known as revocation. And then 3 other modules. Module number 9, this is where we will look at the public key infrastructure architectures. So we will look at the recommended designs for building and planning a PKI. And finally, we will eventually get to the hands-on portion of this course. We will learn how to implement public key infrastructure on iOS devices, and then finally also on the ASA. As you can see from this brief introduction, there is going to be a lot of different topics we will talk about in this course.